Every life has a story. Every family has secrets. Mine is no exception. I don't really know where to begin, so I'll just start at the beginning. Trigger warning. My story may contain talk of mental health issues, family scandals, and broken friendships. When I was about 15, I was out riding my bike by the local school in the neighborhood. I didn't really have many friends back then, and I was basically a loner. So I happened to meet a boy. He was about my age, maybe a little bit younger, who was also riding his bike. And we just struck up a conversation. Memory is a little bit foggy on this because it's been so long, but at some point during this friendship and this conversation, we decided to be boyfriend and girlfriend. I thought he was just the cutest thing I'd seen. So we decide, okay, we're going to be boyfriend and girlfriend. I remember being so happy that I had my first boyfriend and rode home on my bike, super excited. Turns out we only lived down the street from each other, so we exchanged phone numbers and we exchanged a little kiss. Now, when I say kiss, I mean little kiss. We're 14, 15 years old. So this kiss was literally just one of those quick pecks on the lips, and it's very stiff lips at that. So if you can just put that in your thought process, young kids sharing a first kiss, you know nothing about, just stiff-lipped, nothing extreme. Later on that night, we actually talked on the phone, and for unknown reasons that I can't really remember at this time, he broke up with me. So my first ever boyfriend lasted less than 24 hours. Let that sink in. We lived in a middle-class neighborhood. I had a brother and a sister, so we were a family of 5 at the time. My mother all knew that my dad was having multiple affairs and that he was carrying on a couple of different affairs with women who I went to school with their children. We'll put it that way. Us kids all went to school together. So she knew that he was cheating, but she stayed because she wanted to keep her family together with the father of her kids. However, my mother, at this point, she had already had a job, a very good job, and my father really didn't have much income. So my mother actually decided that she didn't want to stay with him, that it was too much. So she tried on numerous occasions to get my dad to leave, and he just wouldn't go. It was around this time, I believe it was the summer of 1984. I was riding my bike from my grandparents' house on the other side of town. And I'm riding along, and I'm 15 years old, and I'm swearing up a storm, F this, F that, blah, 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 just being, I don't know, a little brat. And I fall off my bike. So I go to get up from falling off my bike, and I've got a person across the street on the other side yelling at me, "That's what you get for swearing, that's what you get for swearing." And the friend I was with, I had a girlfriend at this time, and she's yelling at the guy across the street who is giving me crap for swearing, to shut up, that I've actually hurt myself. So I try to get up and I can't move. So we end up getting on my bike. My friend gets me on my bike, and we decide that I'm going to at least try to pedal the bike home. I'm probably a good couple miles from my house. So I figure, well, maybe we can just coast to get home. We ended up making it over a bridge and to a fire station, where we went in and called my dad, my house, and my dad came and picked me up. They took me to the emergency room, and my ankle had a compound fracture. Compound fracture is where my ankle, was actually broken in 2 places. And it was all swollen up, it was bruised, and I had to have a cast put on. So that's how I spent the next 6 weeks of my life, was in a cast. This is also the time that I met my best friend. So I'm in school, and I need extra time to get from one class to the other and carry my books because I'm on crutches. So I'm slower than normal. So the teacher asked the class, is there anybody that would like to go leave early and help Michelle carry her books so she can get to her next class on time? This girl pops up and she says, I'll do it. This became a pivotal time in my life because that girl became my best friend. So I'm not going to use any real names here for privacy reasons, so we'll just call her Stacy. So Stacy and I become best friends. We are literally inseparable. She comes to my house, I go to her house. Turns out she is actually a family of 8. And lo and behold, my first boyfriend is her little brother. That was hysterical to think that my now best friend, my first boyfriend, was her little brother. Now, as I said, my friend has a family of 8, and she is being raised by a single father. So her father is raising her and 7 of her siblings. A lot of them were older. A couple of them were older. She had a couple of older sisters and a couple of older brothers, and then there was her, and then there was the little brother that was my first boyfriend. I always get this mixed up, but one of her brothers, we'll just go with that. One of her brothers was actually dating my cousin. They eventually go on to get married. And at this time, I had overheard, in my family, I had overheard a conversation on the phone with my dad and one of his girlfriends, where they were going on with some very sexual talk on the phone. So my mom came home from work that day. I didn't go to school that day, so that's how I was able to pick up the phone when I heard it ring. And they didn't know that I picked up the phone, so I was listening in to their very sexual conversation. And when my mother came home from work later on that day, I actually told my mom that I had overheard this conversation between the two. And that's when my mother decided to contact a divorce attorney and start divorce proceedings. So to get my father ultimately out of the house because she was unsuccessful up to this point, she actually took her bed down in her room. She took the whole entire bed apart and took the damn thing down and threw it out. She put all his clothes outside, and she slept on the damn couch until he came home and realized that there was no bed for him to sleep in at home. So then he went to his girlfriend's house. But now, mind you, the girlfriend that he has at the time is also married. She is married to my dad's friend. So my dad and her husband are friends, and he's having an affair with her. So now, because there's no bed in my house, my mom's house, for my dad to sleep in, she goes and she files for a divorce from her husband and has him served at their house. So he's still living with her. My dad's still living with my mother, and she serves her husband divorce papers at his house. So he will leave, they get a divorce, and then my dad moves in with her. So now we have 2 split families. We have my friend Stacy's family, who is a single dad raising 8 kids. And we have my family now, with my mother being a single mother raising 3 kids, basically. My brother at this point was older, had a girlfriend, and my sister was a little bit older than me. We're all 5 years apart. So I was about 15. My sister would have been around 19, 20. I was 14, 15. She was 19, 20. And my brother is 5 years older than her, so he was about 25. Had a girlfriend, and he was kind of on his own at that point. So it was mostly just me and my sister at that point, still at home with my mother.